Welcome to Black Hat Windows 2K Security, held February 14th through the 15th, 2001 in Las Vegas, Nevada. The following videotape was recorded live at the conference and produced by the Sound of Knowledge Incorporated. This is videotape number K2, the second keynote address, Why Government Systems Fail at Security.
See, we're about half full, so Vegas claimed about half of you last night. Still must be sleeping in. Okay, 2/3 of you were claimed last night. You might have noticed we moved the wireless network around a little bit. It'll stay where it is now for the rest of the day. And we're currently having a competition on who has the strangest computer name when they register the network. Currently, the MS-DNS-sucks is the current winner. So, and then you'll notice at 10 o'clock we have a panel discussion. We also have a demonstration over in the Deep Knowledge from the Trust Factory guys. And I really want to go see their demonstration. Don't really want to go to the panel. It'll be a really cool demonstration, so if you can, you want to check them out. Other than that, Vegas almost claimed me last night. First talk of the day is going to be on why government security systems fail by Chey Cobb. I'm not sure if many of you know her. Her and Stephen Cobb have participated on and off with both Black Hat and DEF CON over the last 6 or 7 years. And so it's very good to have one of the two, the dynamic duo, back this year. And so with that said, I'd like to introduce Chey Cobb.
Okay, put it up here. I'm going to take my jacket off. Good morning. The original title of this was going to be Why Government System Security Sucks. But then I remembered this was Black Hat, not DEF CON. Help. Okay, first a little bit about who I am. I started working in the computer security business a long time ago, for some of y'all. I was one of the founding employees of NCSA, which is now ICSA, and we were the first to do firewall certification, antivirus certification, and I was doing web security when it first started coming out. After that, I went back home to Florida and I started working down at the Cape. It was really cool. All of our rockets were blowing up at the time. Everything we put up just sort of blasts off. It's really cool firework. And I was building networks for the Air Force down there. And at the time, I was doing all this stuff, and we referred to people at the Cape as our clients or our customers. And I was doing stuff for a customer. And I had no idea who this customer was, other than they were secret and I couldn't say the name. The building that they worked in, we couldn't even say the name of the building. We had to call it by the telephone extension, so that's where all the aliens lived. So eventually they enticed me to go back up to Northern Virginia and interview at this office, and this office is called NRO. And I'd never heard of NRO before. The NRO, we called it No Real Office, because when they first started working as NRO, they were, all the different people, there were about 4,000 people, and they were in different buildings all over Northern Virginia, in little industrial parks, so they had no real office. And they weren't outed until they decided to put all these people together into one office, 4,000 people into one office. And somebody looked at the construction building stuff and said, now wait a minute, somebody's spending $350 million on this building. Who the hell are they? Got into a big congressional investigation, and then the NRO came out. I think that was about 1994. The building as it is now is 4 beautiful towers right outside Highway 28 and Highway 50 in Chantilly, Virginia. They axed the budget for the NRO office at $350 million. So we didn't get our Olympic-sized pool. I was really pissed off. The NSA doesn't build, own, or launch their own satellites. They come to the NRO to do that. The NRO gets a wish list from people of what they'd like the satellites to do, and then they contract out to have the satellites built by Lockheed, TRW, lots of other folks, and then poof, send them up at the Cape and they do their stuff. So the area that I worked in was something that James Bamford was talking about yesterday. It's called Signals Intelligence, or SIGINT. This is just a little picture of a satellite being built. It looks like a real mess. And that's one of the recent launches. If you look to the right of the L in Lockheed, that's a little NRO symbol there. When I first started working, when they asked me to come up and work for the NRO, they said that I would need a clearance greater than God's to work out there. And could I manage to get a clearance to do that? And I said, well, if you understand that I am a child of the 60s, and they went, oh, no problem. Okay, child of the 60s can make it in super secret clearance. That means if any of y'all want to work for the government, you may, if you haven't been busted. One of the reasons I decided to do this topic here out in the open is that talking about this behind closed doors doesn't do any good. I've screamed and yelled and pounded the table, stomped my little feet, and nothing ever gets done. All you get from people is nods, yeah, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, and it doesn't get done. People who've talked in front of Senate committees will tell you that too. Mudge has done a lot of it, and bunch of talking, nothing happens. And the other thing is, no matter how much you know, how much of an expert you are in this field, you go to your bosses, you go to the managers, you go to the people who hold the money for security, and you tell them, we need to do this, we need to do that, and they go, yeah, and they don't believe you. But the same thing in a magazine 2 days later has credibility. So now, I'm not saying anything more than you all say in your offices, but now you can take my slides and say, see, somebody else said it. In a lot of ways, the public sector is doing things in security much better than the government is. The government takes so long to do things correctly, do things right. One of the reasons is their procurement process is broke. It takes 5 years to get anything changed. And corporations, if there's a new firewall that comes out, a new IDS or something, you can launch on it. You can jump in it, you can throw it on a lab, test it out, put it on a test lab, test network, try it out for a while. The government can't do that very easily. People have gotten into government in computer security, and because of the super secret nature of some of these facilities, they lose concept of reality. And they lose the ability to work with new technology. They stop reading, they stop self-educating. People in a lot of the areas that I worked with had not used firewalls. They didn't know that firewalls and IDS are not a cure for security. They think that, oh, I can put a box out here and that's it, I don't have to do anything anymore. And I'd give them the old AIDS analogy and say, well, your network is connected to this network that you trust, but that network is connected to somebody else. If that network is infected, it yada, 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 they didn't get it. And it took a lot of different problems happening before they began to get this. I recently retired, and this is the reason that I retired. I was disillusioned, disgusted, and disappointed with the way the government is doing things. This is national security stuff, and they're not doing it right. A lot of the problems I'm going to be talking about today are in the general populace. There's a lot of little installations, facilities, bases, and so on. They have groups that are doing things right. There are some great things coming out of DoD. Navy's doing some good stuff. But generally, all of the offices in government just don't have a clue. My job was to look at all the systems that wanted to connect to our systems. The NRO would get this wish list from people, and then they'd build systems and we'd put them onto ours. Before they put them onto ours, I had to look at everything and say, okay, is it safe to put on ours? What are you connecting to? I had one system, guys deliver it. I say, okay, now what are you connecting? What's the outward connection to this? And they go, oh, well, it just goes to our corporate internet. Well, what's your corporate internet connected to? Oh, it's safe, it's okay. Well, what's it connected to? Well, it's our e-commerce site. Okay, well, you've got your e-commerce site connected to your intranet, connected to a super secret government system that's collecting data that we give to NSA. That's cool, that's okay, yeah, I'll allow that. People want to hear war stories, so I got a few war stories for you. My last boss, who was Chief of Facility Security, which is in effect like Vice President of Security of a big corporation. Her last job was in the HR department. Her major in college was English. She had no experience in security whatsoever. When she first got there, she wanted me to come over and hook up her home PC. She had never had a PC before. So she wanted to email her mom, so I'm hooking up the computer. I said, okay, well, it's dialing out. She goes, well, how do you know? I said, well, it's going, she goes, okay, you're connected now. And she goes, oh, well, how do you know? I said, well, it says connected. This poor woman was more concerned about getting birthday cakes on schedule for the staff than anything about security. She's still there. These software developers that I had to work with came from NSA, NEMA, CIA, all the different alphabet soup of agencies. And before they could install their system onto mine, I had to do a thorough review of them. And the first thing I'd ask them is, well, you know, what's your system? Is it hardened? And they'd look at me and they'd go, hardened? Well, it's in a box. They had no idea. I had always wanted to be a spook. I always wanted to work for NSA. So I was cool, you know, I get to go out to the fort a lot and work with all these cool people. So I go out to the NSA one day to look at their system, and I said, well, what's your system? What's your architecture here? Well, it's a computer. Okay. I said, what is your computer built of? Well, it's an NT box. Okay. How are you delivering the data? What's in it? Well, it's a web server. I said, okay, we're getting somewhere now. You're going to deliver your data via a web server. Where's your database? Where's your data? Oh, well, it's on the same box. Oh, okay, what web server are you using? IIS, I mean, it comes with it. Okay, no problem with that, no problem at all. And these people were absolutely incredulous that I'd say, no, you can't do this. You got to go back to the drawing board and work things out. You know, don't you even read the newspaper? The newspaper says you have to do this stuff. Like I said, these people get into the agencies and they're not getting paid the most money in the world. I guess that's sort of a disincentive to sort of continue education. We called it hobby shopping. They had to build something to justify their existence, to connect onto our network so they give data to somebody else. So if somebody'd pick up a magazine that's got a CD on it, and they'd go, oh, cool, it's got all these eval copies of shit. You know, I'll just go ahead and use this to build our system, and we'll send it over to the NRO, and the NRO will say, oh, okay, that's no problem. The software developers thought that for security, all I had to do was sort of like wave a magic wand, and yes, it is secure. We have all these rules and regulations on how they're supposed to do this. It's this thing right here. It's a required document. Nobody'd ever read it. And that would tell them how to do things and where to go for resources if they didn't know how to fix their systems. I heard a joke last night that sort of fits with the software developers coming out of NSA. It's called, it's a new element called governmentium. And governmentium is neurons surrounded by deputy neurons and assistant deputy neurons, and it's all surrounded by morons and peons. The person who was in charge of the facility, like the base commander, I had a real knockdown, drag-out fight with this person. I ran loft crack on the system just to check. Did it every few months or so, just see what was going on, because we had a lot of guests coming onto the network a lot, and I wanted to make sure that they were doing okay. So I don't know if you all have used loft crack, but boom, it is really fast. So within 5 seconds, ding! Here comes up the commander's login and the password. And the password was a straight string on the keyboard. Okay. I went to the commander and I said, you can't use that. Oh, don't make me change this. I use it for everything. Well, you use it on the NSA systems and the CIA systems and the NRO systems and your Quicken account and AOL. Okay. She said it was too obvious. Nobody would think that she was using that password. I told her how to fix it. Just change one character in the middle of it and it'd be a lot harder to crack and throw some upper and lower case. No. This person considered logging off at the end of the day adequate security for the facility. She had this big whiteboard that she put out in the hallways of all the log off violations at the end of the day. They wasted the security guards' time making them go around to every machine at the end of the day, tapping the keyboards to see if the screensaver had come on. And if it did, well, that person got a violation because they hadn't logged off. I had to develop a system. Sometimes people were doing overnight processing and they needed to leave their systems on. So I came up with a system where I'd put little tags on them saying this system would be okay to leave on overnight. They don't have to log off. They won't get a violation. Well, then there turned out to be a black market in my little stickers. In using loft crack, I also went into the major systems. And the major systems, it was like something out of James Bond, just miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of computers all over the place. And in doing that, I found out that the root passwords, and a lot of times, were the default passwords, or it was, guess, password, any of the crazy, stupid ones. And I said, no, we got to change these. Well, no, I can't change these because, well, they haven't been changed in 10 years. There's too many people who know it, and we'd have to tell all these people the new passwords. Okay. A lot of what my job was just to fight. I fought politics, internal politics, this person wants to do that and that person wants to do this. I really rarely got much time to sit down at a computer while I was working there. They don't do physical security real well either. The big NRO office, and it's this big, huge blue steel building. Highway 28 in Fairfax runs right outside the facility. When I was in the building there, we had a guy get out of his car on Highway 28, threw his briefcase over the fence, climbed over the fence, and came onto the facility. And nobody said anything about it. And now you've got all these glass buildings that are looking at Highway 28, so easily there had to have been, 1,000, 1,500 people who could have seen this. And everybody who was questioned about this after the incident said, well, he had a briefcase, I thought he was okay. Another part of my job was to go out and inspect SCIFs. SCIFs are secret compartmented information facilities. And you've got all these physical security things that you have to do to them, make sure that sound doesn't emanate and stuff doesn't emanate, big Faraday cages. And you have to do the physical security and the computer security. So I'm in this one site, we're getting ready for their inspection, and we're in the conference room, which was about this size, and they had windows all down one side. They weren't mirrored, and the blinds were all open, and all down this wall and all down that wall were super secret sort of stuff all over the wall. And I looked out the window, and there was a Holiday Inn over there. So I called the security guard over. I said, you have a problem with this? And he goes, no, why? I said, well, there's a Holiday Inn over there, and you got all the secret stuff on the walls. And he goes, well, they're not busy this time of year. There's nobody in the rooms. Oh, my favorite story about NSA, the Fort Meade building, which is humongous, and they've got like 40 million parking spaces around the building. I think that's their best security, is you can't get to the building for all the cars. One part of the parking lot across the street is a minimum security prison. And people would escape from the prison, climb over the fence at NSA and steal cars and drive off the lot, because you're not challenged when you drive off the lot. Well, NSA didn't want to tell anybody this. So these people who were parking over in that area were getting their cars nicked all the time, and they're like, well, shit, where's my car? Oh yeah, well, we forgot to tell you, they had an escape over there today. The government has a problem with money. They can't afford to do shit. You give them billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they go, well, shit, we can't afford to do that. They thought they were saving money when they went to COTS, commercial off-the-shelf software. Used to be, they developed everything inside their little ivory tower, and it was cool because it didn't interoperate with anything else. And they decided to go to COTS. They take COTS straight off the shelf and they plug it in and they say, it is good. They can't match the wages of good security people. Even people coming out of colleges. It's like, well, no, we'll give you $28,000 and we want you to be in charge of 16 facilities. Okay. And they also say they can't afford to keep their systems updated. Every time I said, no, we've got to put security into this, if the rules say you got to do it, they go, oh, well, you're going to cost us money. We got to go back to the lab, we got to research this, we got to do that, and it's going to cost us $6 million. To put a Microsoft software patch on it. I used to ask them, well, okay, we can't afford to do security, would the Secret Service hire somebody out of high school, okay, Prez, you're okay. Will we send people out in Yugos rather than Humvees? What is the cost of security? We would have people in computer network sysadmins who'd never touched a computer before. They'd come out of high school, they'd join the Army because they barely passed high school, and then they'd throw them into the network center and say, here, be in charge of this. Do some auditing. Huh? Okay. And I'd get a call and I'd say, Chey, how do you change a password? I saw this recently. I thought it was a pretty great quote. Companies spend more money on their coffee services than they spend on security. You spend $1 million in your company, and out of that $1 million, $213 is spent on security. The government does worse than that. I used to tell people, when it comes to your systems and security, this is my triangle. You get to pick 2 of these. And they'd go, oh yeah, okay, well I want good and fast, but how much more is it going to cost me to have cheap? No, you can only have 2. I said before that firewalls and intrusion detection systems are new to the government. They had to choose two, so we usually went with cheap and cheap. They considered routers to be firewalls. We had these monsters we called BFRs, big fucking routers. And those were the firewalls. We did an audit on some of the some of the BFRs, and found that, yeah, their ACLs were great. They just had them on back asswards. When we started getting firewalls in, and really honestly, they only started putting real firewalls in recently. They wouldn't send anybody out for training. Because they couldn't send anybody out for training, the firewalls had to be easy. Well, I don't know of many good firewalls that are really easy to configure. So they went basically on the GUI. You know, can I punch a button? The security officers weren't allowed any of the monitoring systems for the firewalls or the IDS systems because, well, that would cost more money, and we weren't sysadmins, and we weren't supposed to know anything about computers anyway. They rely very heavily on IDS now, and they had never heard of all the different ways that you can fool an intrusion detection system, like, you know, send in your exploit backwards or very slowly, those sort of things. So, okay, yeah, we're going to encrypt everything. We're going to do VPNs. You know, we get these great Cisco routers. We're going to do VPNs. Well, they don't understand that that's going to open up a hole and I can't look and see what's going through in the VPN. But it didn't matter anyway because most of the firewalls were in default configurations. I mentioned earlier that the procurement process in the government is broke. A lot of times, the acquisitions office will go ahead and buy something cheaply because they could get it cheaply. Then they'd send it to the engineers and say, okay, we bought this, now do something with it. There was an ATM company that was going out of business, and they had these really awful, horrible machines. So we bought, you know, a couple $1 million worth of these things, sent them out all over the world, and they're still sitting. I mean, they're really great, big, nice paper holders. This manual I showed you and the presidential directive recently said that all of the government systems had to integrate PKI into their systems. So we're all supposed to coordinate and do this and be one great big happy family, but none of these government agencies work together very well. So one of the agencies, NSA, decided to go do it on their own. So first of all, they didn't authenticate the people who were going to be giving out the certificates. So they gave me a call and they said, Chey, right, here's your password, you're going to be doing this. I said, well, wait a minute, I'm not NSA, I can't do this. Oh shit. So they went ahead and rolled out everything and sent out the certificates to everybody, but they just gave everybody all permissions to everything anyway. I went back to them, I said, yeah, this is kind of stupid, guys. You know, I don't think I would have done that because at some point when we decide we're going to lock things down, we're going to have to expire all these certificates and reissue them. Can't do that. It's going to cost too much money. Besides, we don't know how to do that. Oh, and besides, the certificate server isn't working anyway, so we've got it turned off. So you're wondering, if everything is so bad, why haven't they hacked everything? Well, a lot of these super secret systems are so well hidden. I mean, it's proverbial needle in the haystack sort of thing. Here's the net, find the one entranceway into the system and then blossom out. It's going to get them eventually. There are people who are looking for them. Did anybody hear about this? Where NSA DOSed themselves to death for 4 days? That was really cool. You go to work on a Monday and it was like, oh, well, shit. I can't get my mail. I can't send any data. I can't get any data. They couldn't figure it out. And it turned out, partly, that it was a huge misconfiguration in one of their network centers out at the fort. It just took the whole system down. These policies that I've shown you here They were a real case. It took 5 years to get these things written. Now, how can you take 5 years to write security policies that implements technology today? I was on the review committee for these policies, and we'd gone through about 17 revisions of them. And in the web security portion of it, the first line said, "The web is the way you get to the internet." Okay. I think these people were pretty clueless. Anyway, so they get the policies, they send them out to all the agencies, they say, fine, now you have to abide by all these. None of the agencies can agree on interpretations of these things. So they throw them out the window. They say, I don't understand it, we just won't use it. If you ever want to look at them, there's the FAS.org site where you can pick them up. The John Deutsch case has a lot to do with this thing. He recently got pardoned, and if you've ever read the unclassified version of why he got where he is, you just go screaming memes out the room. This guy, they said, okay, you're director of the CIA, we're going to build a SCIF, a compartmented section of your house just for you to do your secret shit. He said, no, that's okay. They said, okay, we're going to give you secret systems. He goes, no, I want my Mac. I got to use my Mac. So they gave him his Macs. Then when he was finished, when he was no longer the director, he said, well, I got to keep my Macs. Well, sir, they're government issued property. You know, the government has to come back, take them back. You don't work for the government anymore. He goes, oh, well, I've got my Quicken files on them. Oh, this is true. Well, sir, you just admitted to improper use of government property. Oh, well, I'm not going to give them up. So he badgered people to death to have these Macs and to keep them. And the whole time he's doing all of his emailing on this, on his AOL account, his name was CIA_Deutsch at AOL.com. And he's sending notes to people all over the world, you know, hey, did you hear about this? And here, did you hear about that? And he said he didn't see there was a problem with it. When they asked him about the rules and regulations, sir, did you ever get a security briefing, computer security briefing? No, I don't think I did. Do you know how to handle classified information? Yeah, I thought I did, but obviously I don't. Well, he's the guy who signed this stuff, so I don't know. When the people I used to work for heard that I was going to do this, they wanted me to do what's called a pre-publication review. They wanted to go through all my slides, they wanted to go through my speech and say, you know, well, you can't say this and you can't say that. Probably pull my clearances after this. So all I did was go out on the net and pull out all the GAO reports, the Government Accounting Office. Government Accounting Office for the past 4 years has been doing intensive studies of government systems, and all the stuff I'm saying here, they've gotten their reports. So when they wanted the pre-publication review, I said, yeah, fine. Here are the GAO reports. The GAO wanted to see if they could get into super secret systems. So they got a bunch of guys, a bunch of white hat hackers, and they, from the internet, they went into these systems, they rooted them, they launched DOS attacks, they got into the comm system and disrupted the phones, they altered email, they altered all kinds of stuff. And yet there are people who still don't believe that this really happened. Can't get from the internet into the government systems. The GAO went and looked at all this stuff and said, well, you know, we've got all of these statistics now. We've got all these people who don't have enough time or training to do their jobs in computer security. Most of the people, computer security is like, do it in your spare time sort of thing. And most of the people really weren't sure what they were supposed to be doing. Well, a lot of the computer security geeks in the facilities, like I said, there are these kids who came out of high school. They went in the Army because they barely got through high school and they couldn't get a job. Then they're thrown into these systems and say, okay, now you administer, you make these things secure. Well, they can't even read. and yet they have to do this stuff. This is the latest investigation that the GAO has done. And all over. I mean, every agency that you can name that is in DC or outwards has these problems. Hello? Having a Microsoft moment. There we go. A lot of the problems also that we have is that the people who are making decisions about computer security don't have the knowledge to do it, they don't have the right to do it, and they're accepting risks that they don't have any right to accept. Pardon? They don't understand what they're taking risks. Case in point, had a boss, well, we had all these different email systems, and there were different categories of secrecy. So you had to sit on this system and do this email, and sit on this system and do this email. And yeah, you couldn't transfer files between them. It was a real pain in the ass. But you got used to it. Well, some of the senior people got really pissed off because, you know, they had to use one email system and another email system, and some of them were Unix-based and some were Windows-based. So they thought up this grand scheme. Well, we'll just forward everything into the system that has Outlook, and then we'll use Outlook for all of the email. Then we had a really bad problem in the world with a couple of viruses that went around. Not that the viruses got into any of these systems. And they didn't understand that the problems they were having was that all of this bad stuff could just sort of skip hop through all the Unix systems, and then it got to the Windows systems and kaboom. So, okay, you can't do this. You can't accept that risk to have everything forwarded and then it'll hit, infect, and blossom outwards. And they just say, yeah, okay, you know, I'm a senior person, I'm going to accept this risk. I say, well, okay, the rules say if you're going to accept the risk, you have to write a letter to the Director of Central Intelligence, to the Director of the NRO, and also the IG, the Inspector General's office, and the CIO's office. They'd go, no. Chey, I want you to sign this thing for me. Oh, no, okay. I said that. Clueless people again. These wonderful software developers came to me and said, you know, all right, I've got a system, I'm going to distribute the data with FTP. Fine. What else do you have on the system? What ports do you need? Open on the firewall so I can connect your system. Well, we need all of them. Well, what do you mean you need all of them? Well, we're using TCP/IP, so we need 65,000 ports. Oh, okay. I said, no, you go back and you test, you run some scans, some monitors on those, and you see what ports you're using while you're processing, and we'll open up those ports to the firewall. Well, no, that'll cost a whole lot of money. No, you go do that. Also, we've got Solaris. Solaris is really cool. You can harden it really nicely. You're going to do that too. Well, no. In the end, the base commander decided to accept the risk on this thing. This one system uses all 65,000 ports for sending data out. It's connected to a whole bunch of other systems. I thought this was a cool thing. I think I'll move to Germany and work for the banks. The people accepting the risk want a simple answer. And in order for me to take the technical problem and make it simple, then they thought the answer was simple. And then I'd say, no, well, it's not simple. Well, Chey, you're just obfuscating, you're confusing, and you're trying to get more money for your department. Okay, they get pissed off. Last year, a hacker connected to the internet through a printer. The program security manager for that facility decided it was okay to connect his systems to the internet because they wanted to, like, you know, check their stock quotes and use Napster and stuff like that. Nothing happened to the program manager there. The building I worked in, because it was a SCIF and we didn't allow emanations and so on, we didn't allow two-way pagers, cell phones, wireless, anything like that. It was really inconvenient. There's the reasons why we couldn't use this stuff. Then the director, Mr. Hall, got this really cool piece of kit for Christmas. All of a sudden, the rules changed. Then he got a two-way pager. Then he got a really cool Palm Pilot. So everybody started bringing this stuff in, and next thing you know, you've got data walking in and out of the building, and what the hell's going on, and I can't crack down now. I've already said it's okay to do this. So now they've got this really weird thing where you can bring a Palm Pilot into the facilities if it's a government-issued Palm Pilot. And if it's a government-issued Palm Pilot, you can also slot it into your little sync box and sync it with a super secure system. So, and they're walking in and out of the building this. Well, the security guard, you know, poor slob only makes $20,000 a year. He doesn't know the difference. Now, we're not spilling data anywhere. This happened right before I left. This was one of the last straws. We had a junior sysadmin who was really pissed off at the world, and he brought in a CD full of, you know, all the sort of hacking tools that you can find out on the internet, and put them on some major systems. He got caught. We said, bye-bye, you don't work here anymore. And I said, right, you know, here's all the systems he installed this stuff, and we know who he was talking to. We need to talk to those people. We need to polygraph them. And we also need to change the root passwords on all these major systems. They didn't do it. Nah, it'll take too long. If we do that, we're going to give the general populace a clue that something had happened wrong, and it would interfere with normal operations. Heaven forbid that you do anything with normal operations that would screw things up. So in spite of everything that they're doing, passwords are what they're using for security in the government. Their firewalls don't work, the IDS doesn't work, all of the systems are configured wide open, we're using passwords, and I've got bosses who use text strings, straight strings off the keyboard for the password and won't change them. We've got root passwords that haven't been changed in 10 years. We have this office called the CIO, and they're absolutely toothless. They're only about 2 years old. Nobody pays any attention to them. The CIO's office is supposed to have these things called memorandums of agreement and memorandums of understanding. It takes them years to hash this stuff out, and then they don't abide by them anyway. When I was looking at systems, I'd say, okay, who owns a system? Well, NSA owns that system. Okay, let's put NSA's MOU, MOA, and their rules on it. Oh, well, we don't really own the system. CIA owns the system. Okay, we'll put their rules and regs on it. So they do this sort of shell game all the time. You have problems? Oh, you're supposed to report it. Who the hell do you report it to? You can't send everything out to all these people. You can't even connect to them because they don't trust one another. Educate the populace? Yeah, right. I'd love to do that, but it never happens. The Inspector General's office, there's some of the people who work with the GAO to come up with these reports. They're really, really, really nice people, but technically they don't have a clue. There's not enough of them. They go around and ask questions. I had the IG come to one of the offices that I worked down at the Cape. We're going to inspect your system. What systems are networked? I said, well, all these. Well, that pointed to a server. I said, yeah. Does that get email? I said, no, it's a server. Oh, well, that's not network connected then. What? What? Presidential directive says you have to do all this stuff. It's really a kick in the pants. I think that everybody should read this. It's such a good laugh. Basically, it says you've got to do all this stuff by 2003. There ain't a hell's chance that it's going to happen. And all it really did was create umpteen different groups of peoples and agencies to look at the security that isn't there. Oh yeah, we're going to hire more people to do security. All right, we've got said all that before. Oh, this is cool. The people in the intelligence community have a career path, and this is how my English major got to be my boss. Career path is sort of a checklist thing, right? Okay, you've done this, you've done that, you've done that. You haven't done anything in computer security. You need that before you retire. Let's click this off. Okay, that's how they get those jobs. I would really like to see more honeypots installed inside and outside. I just love them. You know, set them up everywhere and let people get their fingers dirty and then polygraph them. Why not? I think you see a lot of stuff in the press recently about stop looking at the strong fortress walls, you know, sort of the M&M thing where you have the hard candy outside and soft woolly inside. Just start looking at your people. A lot of the security agencies go, well, I don't know why we even bother with security. Because I think so. I want to thank this. Because the threat's not there. The perceived threat is. We're going to have contractors. Well, that's been going on for ages. I'm of two minds for that. Yeah, it's good for the economy and lots of people get jobs.
Where do you think these contractors come from?
Yeah, a lot of the contractors have retired from whatever agency or the military, and then they go to the contractors. I have a problem with the government putting too much of their continuity in contractors. That happens with a lot of the agencies, where your directors and senior management are only on 2 or 3 year tours. They finally start to get a clue about what's going on in their division or their operation, and then they're rolled out. They're on this career path. They've got another checklist to do on their career path. So they're rolled out. The only people who have any institutional knowledge at all are the contractors. The contractors are better able to work with security and come up with new solutions, but they're constrained by budgets. And the government isn't going to give them enough money to do things correctly. Yes, sir?
Do you believe that the NIACAP or common criteria will help alleviate some of these problems?
The DICAP what?
NIACAP, are you familiar with that?
No, I don't think I am.
NIACAP is the result of PDD 63.
Right.
National Information Assurance Certification and Accreditation Policy. Basically, a current approach to information security across all government agencies. The
PDD 63, the presidential directive to sort of fix things up, I don't have a lot of hopes for it. We've just had a change in administration. So first of all, I think the PDD is going to change. And then again, you're just hiring the same old people who don't have the knowledge to make the decisions So I don't have a lot of hope for that either. I want to thank you all very much for working off to come and see me. Thank you.